Hey everyone, D here, and welcome to another edition of Fans of S.H.I.E.L.D., where we three dive into the latest S.H.I.E.L.D. episode, talk everything about Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., what happened in the episode, and where we hope things are going to go in the future. Joining me, as always, he's the host of Smirking Gun Reviews with his own Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. reviews, plus a lot of gameplay on Twitch. It's Mr. Rob Stone.
What's up, everybody?
And, of course, coming to us straight from the history, yes, 7 seasons and a movie. Keep the hashtag going. And coming us from the history of Westeros himself, the true Don of Ice and Fire, Mr. Don Willie.
Hey, what's going on, everybody? Of course, here to discuss the last hurrah of S.H.I.E.L.D. Hail Hydra.
Wondrous. I love the shirt. And very appropriate for this week's episode, done in a brilliant, beautiful fashion, film noir style. We get the narration, we get the black and white. They tie it all up into Coulson shorting out, and this is sort of part of his reboot sequence. So a nice in-film or in-show explanation for changing styles on that. I love the way they do it. Also want to be sure to welcome everybody who is joining us right now live in the chat. We've got Corey in, as always great to see you. We have Devra. We've got Devontae Smith and Lily Mack joining us as always. So awesome to have so many of you here joining us in with the show. But let's get past all of my ranting and raving here. Let's jump into everyone's reviews. Rob, why don't you kick things off this week? Why don't you give us your little summary of this episode and, any high points you want to hit?
Well, this week we had Agent Coulson, LMD, have a little bit of a glitch. That was what we saw in his eye. It started to go gray. It means that the color went out, and for some reason his inner monologue turned on, like film noir style, which really made a pretty standard, straightforward episode become something better by trying something unique. I feel like if they hadn't gone that way, and I was watching it the second time at around like an hour before we did this, I was trying to watch it as a standard episode. And I'm like, this is pretty like just straightforward. If they just kept going in the 50s and it wasn't in black and white and we didn't have the narration and we didn't have some of the shots they did, it would be pretty standard, but it got elevated. But it was all to save, whether to let, it was easier to let a bad man live than a good man die this week. And they telegraphed it a little bit, but I'm glad that they did. I think we wanted to see something really good and interesting come out of it, which is to save Daniel Sousa's life, whether he likes it or not. Part of me thinks he almost doesn't want to, he'd rather be dead, but I think he'll come around. We also had Deke and Yo-Yo can be confronted by what we thought were Russian spies. Turns out it's Malik and Hydra, and that Malik, old man Malik, has risen in the ranks, and he is not someone to be messed with. But that old favors can get Deke out of things, but also Deke seeing that the 30s, what they were like in the 50s, pretty much the same. And just, that status quo that was mentioned and how that's not how he wants to go forward. You can tell that Deke wants to be a real good man going forward. And I think that's going to pay off huge for his character in the end. But other than that, May, we got some answers finally about what's going on with May. Some very interesting things with May that I think are just the beginning of what's going to happen with May. I think we've barely touched on what she's capable of. So, and that's about it. That's a lot. It sounds like a lot when I'm saying it, but.
Again, there are a few things that did happen, and yeah, I loved Yo-Yo and Deke's discussion there in the car, and Yo-Yo's line is, things are always getting better, but never fast enough. And I think that was sort of just a great sort of perfect summary of noting that, yes, there is improvement, but it's very long improvement. And obviously, as we've been seeing now, drag that out too much, a violent or strong forces of change will rise to push that wave if necessary. All right, Don, what about you? What do you have any insights, first thoughts on this week's episode?
I mean, well, for one, great to have Sousa around, and you know what, Darren, you were right. They went out of their way to save him. Knowing what the risk could be, but at the same point, it was a very calculated risk. This wasn't gambling. This was playing chess, not checkers. Now, whether or not he's going to turn out to be the cop from the Avengers, somehow I doubt it. But I do think that they did a. And sorry if you hear that in the background. People are setting off fireworks for no good reason. So I think that they did a great job with, kind of trying to bring him into the fold, but still keeping him at arm's length as much as they possibly could. The whole thing with Coulson saying, hey, yeah, dude, me telling you about saying I was a fan, that was me kind of hand waving at you or whatever. So this way you know what I'm trying to do. And then him explaining about kind of explaining about the Chronicoms, but at the same point, not really explaining. It was kind of like, yeah, they're metal men. They melt, that's what they do. And there was that little Wizard of Oz reference there where Sousa says Wicked Witch of the East, and he was like Wicked Witch of the West. So that was pretty interesting because gotta remember Daniel Sousa is from a time before TV, whereas Coulson has probably seen the movie tons of times on TV. Sousa may have seen it once in the movies, or it might have been even different in the book if he read the book. So, that was pretty cool. And just the whole thing, the Chronicoms wanting to make a deal, and then saying, hey, if you don't make a deal, we're gonna find a way to screw things up for you even worse. So, we still have to see what the even worse is, but again, like you guys said, I think the film noir and the voiceover took this from being a regular episode and elevated just a bit. Not my favorite episode of the season, but still a pretty solid episode. I don't have too many complaints about it.
Excellent. Yeah, I was looking through here in the chat. Definitely the narration, the black and white imagery, the whole film noir, really a big hit with everyone here in the chat. Just checking to see if there's any other big little comments here. Yeah. Phil sorting out. Yeah, and I thought that was really just a fun way of putting it, making the style of the episode make sense from a sort of character standpoint. And I also know a lot of the Felinda fans out there very excited about the first color that Phil sees is, of course, as May walks into the room, the color in his life. It was funny. I think actually I had seen one or two people on Twitter bounding around like, wouldn't this Jeep be a beautiful thing to see? So once it popped up, I kind of had to smile knowing that there was an amount of fandom that really appreciated that moment. Like you had said, kind of a very straightforward episode. While it was very fun, I think kind of the biggest thing you had out of it, one outside of its stylistic differences, is that the team really making their decision to alter time, to start to play with the rules of time travel. And we've sort of, again, it's sort of something that's been consistent throughout this season, is talking about time travel. We'll bring that up at the very beginning as Deke talks about his time stream theory, and then it's ripples are not waves. And I think at this point it was actually Mac who says, once he makes the choice to go save Sousa, let's make some waves. So there's been kind of a cool progression about where they want to play around with time travel here. And I know that there's been some questions about time travel in this show versus what we've had in the Avengers. And I just wanted to cover something up real quick. I'll try not to make this too long. I wrote it down to try and be more efficient. But I had a question actually in my chat a couple of weeks ago about that from the Rich Room. And I just want to sort of share what I was talking about with him. That yes, they're often a little loosey-goosey with their science, but time travel in the Marvel Universe seems to depend more on the mode of time travel, and that's what determines the rules. In Endgame, they used quantum time travel. By going through the quantum universe, they kind of affected into the rules of quantum theory. And one of the aspects of quantum theory is parallel universe theory. And that would state that any time travel is not within your timeline, but you travel to a parallel universe that has basically the same timeline as yours, but it's parallel. You can go and make any changes on that and then come back to your time, and you haven't affected anything you've done. That's what Hulk talks about. Professor Hulk talks about when he says you can't change your past. That's always your future. And the reality is you aren't going across your timeline. And this is why you can borrow stones and use them and bring them back, and why Thanos can travel over and you can kill him, because he's not from your past. He is from an alternate universe. Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., using both the monoliths and the tides that Fitz was talking about, seem to actually travel within their timeline. And it's kind of like what when we saw Doctor Strange use the time stone, and he was kind of rewinding and fast forwarding, going back and forth. Thus, they can make changes and affect their own past and future. Objects and people, however, are not tied to the time stream, which is why Deke can exist, even though his future self no longer does, because they changed the future and that timeline never happened, or that time stream. Small changes can occur that won't have long-term consequences. That's the time stream that Deke was talking about, sort of a self-correcting bit with intolerances. But large changes or small changes at critical times, like Coulson not taking the injection and giving it to Daisy so that she can defeat Graviton, that will make the giant change that will actually shift the future. So I'm not sure if that helps or clears things up for people. But I think that's sort of what we're seeing is it's not how they are able to play with the rules of time travel by just changing how they do it, and thus changing how it can affect whether your own past or, is just a parallel universe past.
That was a lot of words.
Yeah.
I was impressed. I was going, how he's going for it. And man, that's not a diss, man. I was just waiting. I was waiting patiently. I was fascinated.
This is the stuff that gets my brain going. So yeah.
No cue cards. You just did that from memory.
Oh no! I jumped over and I've got a little write down here. In all honesty, so yeah. But yeah, and I think that's sort of what we're dealing with here is, and I think that's how they are, as again long theorized, and even Jed Ween has discussed, is the seeded purpose of this season seems to kind of fix everything and dovetail everything right back into its normal place in with the MCU. So we could be making changes that could be referenced in the films or have already done. They can make those little adjustments. Somebody had asked if we expect to see Coulson, if they go to the 90s, will Coulson be running into Captain Marvel or maybe his own other self or a younger version of Nick Fury? Though I doubt they'll spend the money on the CGI in order to do that particular effect. But yeah, I think in that way, maybe this is what they want to do. We've got the actor from the Avengers. We want to tie this back through. Why not keep Sousa around? And for some reason in the Battle of New York, he's got to run out and do something. They will have their own Endgame style adventure in the middle of the Battle of New York. How cool would that be?
That was something that I was going to mention last week about how this season is Agents of Shield's endgame, and it's completely earned. And I can understand that some people are frustrated with this season. I think it's going to come together once you see the full picture, but like they've earned it. Phil Coulson has been in the MCU since basically the beginning, right? Iron Man 1.
Yeah.
And he wasn't in Hulk, but he was in Iron Man 1, 2, 3. I think he was in all of those. I mean, he's just been the constant throughout. And so there's so many ways that they could use that alone. But just the time travel story of itself is what basically a huge chunk of Endgame was just going in the back and fixing things. And now Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. gets to do the exact same thing. And whether you like it or not, it still is an earned storyline. And I know that they're going to find a way to just perfectly place it all together. If you don't like this season so far, it's all right. I didn't really like season 5, so.
I went on a season 5. I went a season 6 rant. I think in my last review. So yeah, I totally get some things don't link with us. Some stuff does. But yeah, I'm kind of excited with what they could do, and I like the progression. Because first they talk about this is what we can do or can't do. This is what we should do or shouldn't do. And then as they see things go on, it's like, well, but can we just stand by and watch? Maybe we can make a small change. And this one is Sousa. Again, he actually dies. So you're not affecting the timeline in the way. Though, Rob, I think you made a good point. Don't you need a body? What happened with that grave? I want to know what that discussion with the S.H.I.E.L.D. agency was like, I don't know. We saw him floating in the pool and then some medical examiners. That's not suspicious at all.
There wasn't any blood either.
Yeah, well, I mean, I figured they could get away with that. I don't know what forensics was in the 50s. Somebody has some argument with you about
water, you expect there to be a pool of blood. Sorry.
Yeah, actually, what is Sousa's funeral going to look like? Obviously, closed casket. What was that phone call like? We lost the body, sir. No, he's dead. Believe us.
And Carter would have gotten a phone call too, right?
I would imagine so. I mean, he's the first fallen agent of S.H.I.E.L.D., apparently. So, I mean, this would be sort of a big deal. I mean, again, they did Phyllis LMD. He got shot. It worked fine. It's just, again, these are the small little things you think about afterwards.
Yeah, and you got to remember at this time also Malik is one of the top brass in S.H.I.E.L.D. So if Daniel Sousa's body goes missing, oh well, fine by me.
That's true. You would have some cover-up ability in there that might allow that to go. So, that's a fair point. Let's talk about Enoch for a minute. Our Lonely Chronicle, who definitely didn't get the respect I think he deserved this episode. It's bad enough he's got to listen to drunken stories, but he doesn't even get picked up. What did you guys think about Enoch's little lament?
I mean, listen, been hearing this whole evil Enoch thing. He's hurt. The agents are using him. He's been called a damn robot a bunch of times. May freaking damaged him. I mean, I don't want to believe that Enoch will turn on the team because remember, he's lived for thousands of years. He's died and come back. He knows the bigger picture. He knows the bigger picture. So, while yes, I do think that somewhere in his little mechanical heart, he is aching right now. I think he understands that, hey, you know what? These people are in a very precarious situation. And while I might want companionship, right now, I can wait a few Chronicom days worth, because I mean, remember, for him, this all of this stuff is kind of happening almost in the blink of an eye. He's been around for thousands of years. You know,
I'm
20.
sure it feels like he's been in that bar for thousands of years at this
Yeah,
point.
I mean, well, yeah, because now he's having to play therapist, which he probably hasn't had to before. Before, he was just somebody who was chronicling things. So yeah, yeah, I think there's gonna come a point where it's gonna look like he's gonna betray the team, but he's not going to.
Okay. Rob, what's your insights here and or guesses on the plight of poor Enoch?
At the time I did my review, I didn't see the promo where he does the kind of Terminator line, which was great. That only Enoch could do in that situation. That cracked me up. And so when I heard that line, I was like, oh, he's fine. He's fine. And I think that when you watch it and you just see him just like slowly just kind of, oh, like, and then by the time Deke gets there and you hear Deke go, he's excited to talk to Enoch, and by that Enoch's just like, yeah, click. So even if he, so I do feel like in that moment he was hurting, and I was hurting for him, and so my reaction was, man, when I saw that last scene when the Chronicom shows up and it's all dark and it's the way they shoot it, and a lot of film noir, all of a sudden you expect somebody to come walking out of the darkness to be like bum bum bum. But it didn't happen. But I was waiting for it. I was like, please don't happen, and it didn't. And I think Don's right. In the end, it's all going to be fine. It just, the guy is stuck there listening to drunk people talk while they're having adventures. He could be such a value, and they're like, no, we have no time. He's all the way over there. We couldn't possibly get this Zephyr there and back again. It's just a testament to how much we've fallen in love with this character. Like he's this show's Data, and
Oh yeah.
Brent Spiner's fine, Data's fine. I'm not a big Star Trek guy, but I understand the value of that character and why people like him, and that's why I like this character. And I think it was just more of like we're all so wanting him to get back, and after the way that he was left behind, and the frustration of yo, why couldn't your powers work now? Like it just seems like he just keeps getting the shaft. And so hopefully this next episode, when he saves them, maybe that's his way of proving like maybe he's going to up his own game.
Right.
Like I'm going to be where they are next time for sure, and I'm not getting left behind again. So
well, and that's the thing is I think that
fine.
I think they did that really well, progressive wise, through the episode. Is I think the team does like him, and Deke especially. I loved how they did that. How it gotten to the point where yes, Deke, the one person who might want to call and actually talk with him and catch up and be like, "What's going on, my man?" At that point, Enoch is so beaten down he doesn't even bother to listen. But I think we're going to prove how much the team actually does appreciate Enoch. I think he does play an important role. And I see what you're saying about the potential of him maybe be betraying the team, and that's the deal that the Chronicoms could have gone with, except that already happened last season. We already had Enoch's little temptation by the rest of the Chronicoms that betrayed Fitz, his best friend, and then he realized almost immediately not to do that. So I don't think they could have done that again this season. It would have been a little too much. But I totally get the feeling the way that he was playing it. Data was great. Enoch is by far my favorite synthetic being, maybe outside of Phil, but he's kind of half synthetic and half all Phil. Just want to go through the chat here real quick. Corey asks, if they pluck Sousa from the timeline, who on earth is Carter's husband? Well, they never really say that Sousa is Carter's husband. Plus, they imply that they haven't been together for a while, the way he's introduced in this season when he hears Carter's name and checks his hair like, oh, she's here. So I don't know if we could say that Sousa was, but you're right. We're playing with time streams and stuff. Before Steve time traveled with her, that would be in a parallel universe if he did the quantum realm. So that wouldn't be within this timeline. That would be in a parallel one where he could go back, be with Peggy, be Captain America, stop Hydra, be all super awesome, be an old man, and then come back here and give Falcon the shield. So if we're looking at those different time travel bits. Yeah, Corey also mentioning about so sad that he didn't even listen to Deke as soon as he pops up, even though he's the one that wanted to talk.
And Devontae, I do realize that Enoch is from season 5. He was basically my favorite thing about season 5.
Yes, a lot of expectations for next week. Get in the car if you want to continue existing. The new quote of the season. Babaro. Feels like it should flow. Babaro. Anyway, 70s Enoch is Marvel's Shaft. I will sign up. I will get a T-shirt of that if it's ever made. Enoch's a Chronicon superhero. What decade will we see Fitz return? Frank is asking. That's an excellent question. I don't know. We don't know where Fitz is. He could be in some pocket timeless universe, or sitting at the beginning of time, making stuff. That's actually a great question. I'm curious. I need to see Fitz though. I really do miss him. He's one of my favorite characters. Okay, let's see. May. We haven't talked about May yet, have we? May's an empath now, apparently. I like the line, she's now touchy-feely, which is so unlike May. She needs to touch you in order to feel anything, which can be weird, but could also be a very interesting insight into whether or not someone's a Chronicom or not, as opposed to trying to repeat moist and see their reactions. May could just go around touching everyone. Depends, I guess, on the time that they're in, whether or not that they could actually do that appropriately. Probably at no time is it appropriate. But what are you guys thinking about May's new? I don't know. Is it ability? Is it what's coming in? Is this a new power that May is getting, or is this kind of a temporary thing? Dawn, let's start things off with you. What do you think of what's going on with May?
I'm thinking this has got to be a temporary thing. It's some side effect of what happened to her on the other side of, on the other side of that world when she was fighting against Izel. But it's interesting because now that she realizes what it is, is she going to try to find a way to reverse this or to go through with it? Because for one, when it came to Coulson, I mean, damn, that was cold. He like the first thing Coulson sees is her. Everything's back in color. He's got a smile on her face. She walks up, grabs him by the arms, like, I get nothing off him. Just walks away. I'm like, God damn. But when she was there with Sousa, she kind of got confused for a moment, and then her being there with Gemma and Yo-Yo, and Yo-Yo was really the one that picked up on it. Like, wait, hold on a moment here, and then she pulled Gemma's arm away, and it was like, all right, now what? So it seems that she has to actually be physically in contact with whoever to do that, which obviously they're setting this up because she's going to discover some secret kind of Chronicom. Mm-hmm. There's going to be somebody who everyone thinks is cool and it's like, wait, yeah, that person's not a person. Shoot him, you know, or she's gonna do the job herself. So that's gonna be interesting to see um, where where they take that particular ability, but I don't think that it can last. I don't think it's meant to last. I mean, look, they're having fun this season, right? You got Coulson, Scott Powers, Mac is being director now as opposed to before where it was kind of like, oh yeah, I'm the director, but I mean like somebody help me. Now he's like, no, god damn it, I'm the director. You will follow my orders.
Which I
Uh,
love that. I love them having Mac embrace that directorhood because he's good in that position.
right, and with May now, she's in a very vulnerable place that we've never really seen her before. The last time we saw May this vulnerable is the episode where they explain to her, like where they explain where she got the name the cavalry from.
The Bahrain episode, yeah.
That was the last time we really saw her, like, and it wasn't even in modern day. It was just kind of like, like if you want to know why May is this kind of stone cold, I'm ready to kick anyone's ass at any time, and just doesn't take any shit from anybody. Like, there you go, and we get little bits and pieces here and there, stuff with her and Coulson, stuff with her and her ex husband, who I don't remember the ex husband's name. I just remember he turned into Lash.
Yeah.
But
Andrew.
Andrew, yes, thank you. Yeah, but things like that. It's very fleeting moments that we get to see May emotionally vulnerable, and now here she is in a place where she's like she has no idea what to do, and we're on this journey with her, and we're all rooting for her to get back to some semblance of happiness. I mean, as happy as May can be, possibly. So I turn it over to you guys.
So I'm just glancing in through chat and see how everybody is responding. Does Frank Cardinal asks, does May have the feelings of the person she is physically fighting at the time? That could complicate things. Yeah, I think that would be a real interesting kind of fight to see if she does. Is she touching them long enough? Is she close enough? Is it more proximity, or does it? I mean, it does seem to be the physical touch that does it. But yeah, that's sort of an interesting idea. Sal, I want to remind everyone that Ada couldn't be taken out by EMP. Radcliffe and Simmons used her power source to reboot May after they killed her to get rid of that ghost disease. That's true. That's true. Needed Ghost Rider to finally take care of Ada in the end. See, Lily Mac having a hard time with May and her varying moods ability. It's like Troy May instead of Soldier May, who I miss. Yeah, well, I think they're trying to find that balance here between her. It's like she was, I think, in the best May state at the beginning of last season. Like she had gotten in a comfortable position, and now then she got angry at Sarge, and now she has no emotions or borrowing emotions.
I think I did, and this is why I love this. What we do here right now and every Friday is we can get into a thing and everybody starts talking and starts such convincing arguments about other things that I think it's such a strong possibility about what Don said about these being temporary. That it's like where she was basically sucked all her emotions out, all her feelings out. And by each time she touches someone, she's feeling something. So maybe it's just an amount of rebooting her emotional system, like almost like a battery, like almost recharging her emotions, bringing it back. Like she's had it all taken from her. That it might just be a matter of somehow figuring out how to get it back. more than just, ooh, is she going to evolve into some superpower? I do think that you're right. It's going to be a temporary thing in retrospect now, because it just wouldn't make sense to continue with it. It has to have some ultimate purpose before we get her back, even if it's right at the end. So yeah, I mean, yeah, that's such a great point. It really, really is. And I hope that that's kind of what it is. Now, maybe, I don't know if we're all going to like have to hold hands and sing Kumbaya with her. Like, okay, everybody get in a love circle here. Everybody just touch May and we'll all just send her love and maybe she'll wake up. It might be as simple as something as simple as that. I think we always come up with these great, big, grand ideas, but like in the end, it's probably something more along those lines. Just somehow rebooting her. If that's, she kind of acts like a robot when she was regular anyway. So maybe that's just all it needs is she needs to like the Green Lantern battery, just needs to get recharged.
Well, yeah, I mean, the fact that she was, she got out of the healing chamber, whatever they refer to it as, early. I think this is probably something that is, as her system kind of gets back together and reconnects, this is just one of those effects. I don't think they need to give another character superpowers necessarily in the show. So yeah, the kind of just temporary effect of her system, and they may give some science idea afterwards of like, well, yeah, her system is trying to reintegrate all of these ideas, and this is just, part of the effect. I think that would make an interesting way of being able to use these powers, this position for her for some story development points without having to make any large term changes. Because yeah, I think everyone in the chat misses Kick-Ass May.
And Corey brings up a nice point here about Yo-Yo possibly being pregnant. Now, she says, don't you mean Yo-Yo? We discussed possibly Yo-Yo being pregnant. Could that be something that's with the Shrike stuff alone? Could it also be maybe her pregnancy screwing things up as well, mixed with that? I don't know.
Yeah. One of the commenters in my chat, David Olson, had mentioned that perhaps it's the second heartbeat is what's throwing Yo-Yo off. Is she can move in the span of one heartbeat, but if there is a second heartbeat, does that throw off her timing or anything like that? I don't know. I just thought that was an interesting idea.
Wait, hold on. Pregnant by who, though?
Well, okay, now we would all want Mac.
Yeah, but I mean, as far as we know,
but
they haven't really been back together. Which would make the other guy that wound up getting killed by the strike.
Yeah.
I mean, and look, I know Mac would do, the honorable thing and, raise the child as his own. But I mean, like, that would still, like, I'm pretty sure in the back of his mind, I would still be like, oh, God damn it. Really?
Yeah. Well, yeah, I don't know if that's the direction that they're going. I just thought that was an interesting solution, an interesting theory as to what could be throwing her off outside of the Shrike. But yeah, I mean, I hope they don't just use May in order to let somebody know that they're pregnant. I mean, that would be a waste of that emotion. This definitely feels like it's got to play into some Chronicon, especially since by the end of the episode, she tests it on Phil. And of course, doesn't feel anything, which is, again, he's the color of her life. And she just walks up, I feel nothing, and walks away. It's like, knife to the heart.
Yeah. Here comes the cavalry.
Yeah, exactly. Let's see. Look over. We talked about Sousa and the team. We're talking Tribal. We're talking about Deke learning that history is not always the best place. Looks great in books, but the reality of it, not as much fun. Oh, Hydra. So obviously, the legacy season here only makes sense for Hydra to be in. Only makes sense for the Malik family to again make a large impact. To me, that was kind of the most fun out of this episode. We've been really following the Chronicom battle, but now seeing that this is going to be tied up really intrinsically with Hydra. It wasn't just, passing on Freddy from an intro standpoint, but we get to follow his life, and now we get to see the Chronicoms actually working with Hydra to affect the future. So, yeah, I mean, in some ways, how's the team supposed to try and save history if they've got another team that's constantly altering it around them? Isn't it better to just make the best out of what you got in the situation that you're in then? But yeah, Rob, what do you think about, are you excited about Hydra being back? Do you think it's appropriate? Does this seem like the right mix for you? Did you want it more Chronicoms, or is this like, now we've got the perfect shield mixture?
I think it works pretty good. I mean, they went to Phil MD and they tried to get him on board. I think they're desperate. Like he says to him, like you time traveled, we time traveled. They keep trying to find an answer to this, and to them, I think Hydra might be their last resort. As far as I don't know what they're going to plan. And the next trailer was so good at hiding, to me, what was going on. I think they're going to surprise us again with something. I know that next week is probably going to be like a Starsky and Hutch episode, kind of a 70s cop show inspired episode. But what the actual story is going to be about, I really don't know. But I do think that Hydra and S.H.I.E.L.D. are intertwined since the beginning, so it has to end with Hydra.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. What about you, Don? What's your, okay, obviously you're very pro Hydra, as we can see from the shirt. Did that get you really excited? I know you were excited for me to see this week's episode.
Well, yeah, I mean, listen, I was excited because, for one, you were right about Sousa, and them deciding to save him. But also, I was excited to see the transformation of Freddie Malik into Wilfred Malik, and like now he looks like a proper villain.
Mm-hmm.
He looks like a proper no, Mr. Bond, I expect you to die kind of guy, as opposed to just being some punk off the street, and hey, look, he's putting things into place where him and the Chronicoms are gonna set up roadblocks for S.H.I.E.L.D. for years to come, and because our team is unaware that the Chronicoms were willing to leave someone in the past, we have no idea what sort of repercussions wait for them in the 70s. Obviously, we saw that they're going to be in a bit of trouble, but aren't they always? But, it's going to be interesting to see what have the Chronicoms done in the past 20 years that are going to affect things. So when the S.H.I.E.L.D. agents get to the 70s, they're going to be like, for those who were around in the 70s, definitely Coulson would have been alive in the 70s, probably a very young man. Same with May, Mac, possibly Yo-Yo, possibly. I mean, depending on if it's like
maybe like kids, yeah.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Late 70s, early 70s, they might have been kids back then, but still, it would be like if we went back to the 80s and all of a sudden, instead of Transformers, Mighty Morphin Power Rangers is there, we would notice the difference. So there might be something that happens where, obviously no one who had lived through it, who was living in that current time would notice. But if you had already lived through it and you came back to it again, you might be like, I remember McDonald's. They didn't have that logo until the 90s. What is that doing here now? So it might be one of those kind of things where it's like, oh, okay, yeah, we have to find out what the genesis of this is and put a stop to it somehow. So that's going to be interesting to see how they kind of go and pull those strings.
Well, it also might be interesting now that that Enoch did get left in the past because again, not enough time to get to the East Coast and pick him up. But now you've got a Chronicom working with Shield and a Chronicom working for Hydra. I wonder how that could infiltrate things. Yeah, I don't know. Again, it's kind of interesting. I'm really excited to see next week's episode. Not only that, because they've got Patrick Warburton back as the head of the lighthouse, and I love Patrick Warburton, so I'm always excited to see him.
Yeah, can't wait for him to be back.
Yeah. Okay, let me go through the chat here. Devontae mentions that Yo-Yo had a full physical by Gemma. Wouldn't she notice that if she was pregnant? Yeah, you're right. She would. So that wouldn't be it. Thank you, Devontae. That's perfect. Frank asks, will we see Child Malik? Very possible. I would think so. Devontae asks, maybe Hydra invented disco to ruin the world. That explains so much. It explains so much. I would love a line like that. Corey, I love that Sousa was totally cool with time travel. Why didn't you lead with that, Phil? That we're time travelers for the future? Wonder why we did. Yes, you're right. But I think Sousa needed all of this other stuff to be able to accept that. So, yeah, I think it was good that Phil didn't lead with that. Sal asks, I wonder if naming the daddy Malik Fred might be another reference to a modern high-level American political figure who comes from money and also had a dad named Fred. Maybe. I wouldn't put it past the show. Hydra now has Chronicom tech. Yeah, that's definitely going to mess up the timeline. Or make the timeline exactly as it is, because if you want to follow... It was referenced earlier, Fitz's block of paper theory. Anything that has happened already has happened, and the timeline has adjusted for it. Sure. Again, you can go any direction. You can pick your time travel theory, however works best for you. Let's see. Well, I think we have pretty much covered everything. Is there any last bits or expectations that you guys have coming up for next week's, or where we're going from here? Don, let's start with you.
Next week, I mean, we're expecting lots of hijinks, obviously. I'm expecting bell bottoms. I'm expecting someone to ask Mac why he doesn't have an afro. I'm expecting Sousa to be like, okay, maybe I need to stay on the ship because I don't understand anything that's going on right now.
He gets his own Captain America moments here. Yeah.
Yeah, and I'm expecting to be, a wild monkey wrench thrown in the works. There's going to be something that someone is going to see. It's most likely going to be Coulson, that he's going to see something and be like, wait, that's out of place here. Like, that definitely does not belong here. What happened? Now, how significantly whatever that reveal will change things, or like at least in his mind change things, that I'm not sure, but I'm pretty sure there's got to be something to where Coulson's going to point this thing out, and maybe because time has already changed, but him being non corporeal in terms of being an actual human, maybe it doesn't affect him the same way, and he's able to spot changes in the timeline, possibly.
Mm-hmm. Well, yeah, because that's one of the reasons that Phil is there, is because of his knowledge of history, specifically Shield history. So yeah, that would be a cool thing to start to see if stuff gets adjusted out of from where it is. Rob, what about you? Any big expectations for next week?
I would hope to see somebody slide over the hood of a car and or hanging on the hood of a car. Maybe Daniel Sousa gets his leg fixed.
We do have some nice shield tech in this effort.
Otherwise, he pretty much nailed it. So those are just a couple of little jokes, but yeah, I think those are we should get some good soundtrack. We're gonna see some cool outfits, and hopefully no disco.
Mm-hmm. Fair enough. Yeah, we want some funk music. Want it in the chat. Big Hydra fight at the roller rink is the call for Frank Cardinal. I will go with that. There is one last subject I wanted to touch on real quick, but before I do that, I don't have a date. I don't have a time yet. I'm hoping that this is sometime next week. Please pay attention. I will put it on my Twitter feed as well as through my channel. But hopefully next week at some point, I should have an interview with the zombie expert himself, Mr. Max Brooks. Will be on D's Reviews, talking about his new book, Devolution, where he sorts into the true threat to the human species, Bigfoot. So very excited about that. I will let you guys know. I wasn't able to finish sorting everything out here before the show. So as soon as I get that time and stuff figured out, I will let you guys all know. It will be a very exciting conversation. So lastly, before we drop things off, the device, the thingy, our MacGuffin of the week. That is supposed to be dropped off for Howard Stark is the basis for all shield tech. As Gemma drools over this, even the Zephyr could be seen from this piece of metal. Personally, I loved it because it was the ultimate MacGuffin. It meant nothing. It needed no explanation. They didn't need to go into what it was. Was it the metal? Was it a device? Was it alien? Was it Wakandan? It didn't matter. The fact that just Gemma liked it and May obviously was getting the emotional out of it because she touched her was all that was needed. To me, it was a perfect spy MacGuffin. Some people have wondered if it was vibranium, but of course, Stark would have already had vibranium from for the shield for Captain America earlier. Plus, it seemed to be more of a tech item because they're talking about the Zephyr and all of Shield's tech associated with it. That's how I saw it. Frank sees it as Stark's bathroom doorstop. That's probably exactly what it is. Did you guys have any ideas on it, or was it just like the spy device we're going after? You guys have any insights on that?
It's pretty much what you're just saying there. It's probably something like along the lines of a bathroom doorstop, just put in a briefcase.
Don, do you have what do you think that the magical shield device MacGuffin is?
I mean, listen, you know what? In the past 6 seasons that we have been watching this show, miraculously, no one has ever said, you know what, I have to go to the bathroom. And I think that device, part of the reason why, something that magically disappears waste so the agents don't have to think about it. So this way they're always up for a fight. No, seriously though, man.
What you don't actually see is underneath it is the key to the restroom. This is just the large stuff from the gas station. You got to wheel around so you don't lose it.
Yeah, honestly speaking, it is interesting. Yeah, like you said, this is the MacGuffin of all MacGuffins because, like most MacGuffins say, oh well, yeah, you need to get this because it'll do this thing, and this is just the most general that you could possibly get. It's like, yeah, the the thing that started all Shield Tech. What does it do? It started all Shield Tech. But what does it do? It doesn't matter. All Shield Tech comes from this.
And again, it looks like just a poured piece of block of metal. It doesn't even look like anything.
It's like a giant doorstop. Just waiting for Hodor to come out and be like, Hodor. like, oh, okay. Yeah, sure. We'll buy that. So I have no idea, and I wonder if this would have been a thing in Agent Carter. Would it have been a thing in Agent Carter?
It's possible. I think this is a couple years after Agent Carter. I feel like the timeline of when Carter took place.
Agent Carter, I believe, took place like in the 40s, but it would have been the late 40s because it's supposed to be after World War II. So I'm guessing somewhere between, like, let's say 1947 to 1949, because I know it was still the 40s. It wasn't the 50s yet.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking. So, yeah, some time had definitely passed, at least between where the end of that show had gone and this one. Tragically underwatched show, Agent Carter. Anyway, we don't need to get that anymore. But I do think that it is time we wrapped up. We're hitting about the hour mark. So thank you, everyone, for joining us live here in the chat. Always appreciate you being there. Appreciate your comments. Appreciate you sharing it all. You are why we do this show. And it's so exciting. So, and like I said, probably not next week, but I think the week after that, it'll be right around this right middle of the season. We're going to have our big fan episode where we will pull you guys on here onto the show, be part of the chat, share your shows and discussions with us. I gotta figure out a few things, and my life's all up in the air. So I want to be sure to have time to get that done right. So look forward to that. We will let you know as that comes. But we're going to go ahead and wrap things up. So, Rob, why don't you tell the folks where people can find you?
You can find me on Twitter at reviews_gun, at my YouTube channel, Smirking Gun Reviews, and on Twitch, where I'm going to be right after this. And we'll be playing The Last of Us Part 2, Part 3, 4. I've been playing it a lot. Where we'll be continuing to play that. If you don't care about spoilers, that's where we'll be. It's Smirking Gun Plays. And then, hashtag 7 seasons on a movie. And also, why not just throw in 7 seasons and a spinoff? Deke and Enoch? I don't know.
I'd watch that. Don, what about yourself? Why don't you tell people what you're doing and where they can find you?
All right, so you can find me on YouTube here at Adon of Ice and Fire. You can also find me on Twitter at IDonWillie. That's IDonWilli. And of course, you can find me here Friday nights, 10 p.m. Eastern. Fans of Shield. Darren, thank you for having me. Rob, always nice to be in the chat with you guys. And of course, to everyone who's watching live and those who will watch in the archives.
For sure. Always a blast to chat with you guys. And of course, this is my channel. I'm Deke. And I do Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., of course. Fans of S.H.I.E.L.D. here every week. At some point, we'll be doing the final season finale of Walking Dead, if that ever is going to be released this summer. And like I said, coming up soon, I will let you guys know as soon as I have more information. We will be doing an interview with author Max Brooks talking about his new book, Devolution. We can prepare to fight against the scourge of Bigfoot. So that's going to be it for us. Thank you all so much for joining us. Thank you for joining us in the chat. Thank you for watching us in the archives. And we will catch you all next week. Bye-bye. And just give me a minute because it takes like 2 minutes for this thing to finish doing. I should figure out how to do this more efficiently.